Now we turn to number 2 in our series on 1st and 2nd Corinthians. This one is entitled The Message of the Cross, and it's primarily 1st Corinthians chapter 1 and the first part of 1st Corinthians chapter 2. So let's take a look at what he was saying, particularly there in 1st Corinthians 1 verse 17 and on. For Christ didn't send me out to baptize. Wait, isn't that the message that Jesus said to the disciples, that they were to go into all the world and to baptize? He's saying that really wasn't my plan and my purpose. Christ didn't send me out to baptize, but to spread the good news. And I think there we have something that we probably should underline as a faith community. You know, we get very wrapped up, especially in administration, with baptismal numbers, and that's a sign of the church that's growing, and we are thankful to God for that. But that is not our primary, what would you say, motive and mission. Our primary mission is to spread the good news, as Paul says here, and not with eloquent human wisdom, otherwise the cross of Christ will be made powerless. And he's saying this after his experience there in Athens, and I think he really did work through the whole idea that, yes, trying to use human logic and philosophy to spread the good news, that really doesn't work. And you've got to come back to the message of Jesus, what he came to do. He says, I came to show you what God is like. I came to reveal the Father to you. And in so doing, he was born, he lived, and he died, and he was resurrected. You need to take all of that, and yet we can kind of summarize it if we say that it all centers on the cross. He goes on to say, for the message of the cross is nonsense to those who are lost, but it's the power of God to those of us who are saved. And I love that. That's the power of God to those who are saved. It's the central message that God loved us so much that he was willing to come here and die to win us back to love and to trust. Jesus said, if I be lifted up, I will draw all to me. And that included every thinking being in the universe. It's not just about little me and all of us here. It's all about showing God to everybody, including the angels, who needed to see what God was like. He goes on to say, verse 22, the Jews asked for miraculous signs, the Greeks looked for wisdom, but our message is of Christ killed on a cross, offensive to the Jews and foolishness to the foreigners. The whole idea of Messiah being killed, crucified, was truly offensive to the Jews, and it didn't make any sense to the Greeks and their concepts of God. You remember they had these ideas about Zeus and all the other panoply of Greek Roman gods, very similar, different names but same idea behind them. And to have a God who came and died, that was foolishness to them. And he goes on, verse 24, however, for those who are called by God, both Jews and foreigners, Christ is the power of God and the wisdom of God, for the foolishness of God is wiser than we are, and the weakness of God is stronger than we are. There's some words that we really should take to heart. And then I want to jump quickly over to the second chapter of 1 Corinthians and see what he says there. He says, when I came to you, brothers and sisters, I didn't try to impress you with wonderful words or great wisdom when I told you what God had to say to you. I decided that while I was with you, I didn't want to concentrate on anything except Jesus Christ and that he was crucified. And when he says crucified, he doesn't just leave it there, of course, because I'm sure many people in the Roman world of the time would say, yes, we got plenty of those people who were crucified too, because the Romans did that wherever they went to try and bring the local population into subjection. And the point about Jesus, yes, he was crucified, but he rose again. And without the message of the resurrection, the message of the crucifixion is truly pointless. I came to you in weakness, fearful and trembling. I didn't speak to you with persuasive words of wisdom to convince you. I just explained it all to you through the evidence and power of the Spirit. He liked that. I love that word evidence that he uses there. That way, your trust in God wouldn't rely on human wisdom, but on the power of God. And there you have it. We have the evidence before us, and that's why we choose, and that's why we live for God, because we recognize in all that we say and do, in all that our human experience, as we read the Bible, as we pray, we recognize the power of God. And this isn't human wisdom, it's the power of God to save us, to heal us, to remake us, so we can go home and be with him. May God bless you as you demonstrate that in your lives today.